Hey everyone, Ekman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown for the TAC Games Online Treasure Cup that happened this past weekend. It was over 200 players in 8 rounds of Swiss to this top 16 that we see here today. And a couple of things before we get started. First, if you guys are new to the channel, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe. It really does help, and I really do appreciate it as well. And if you guys want any deck lists for either this event or any other OP08 event or any other just One Piece event, they're on my website, Eggman Events, which is linked in the description. And we're going to continue to support and do content for OP08 as we get there, but this is the one that we have here today. So again, as mentioned, it was 271 players, 8 rounds of Swiss best of 1, and of them we have 10 different leaders in this top 16. So 4 Star Deck 13 Luffy, 2 Rob Lucci, with one of them winning the event, 2 Zoro, 2 of the Star Deck 14 Luffy, a Nami, a Perona, a Marco, a Kalgara, a Vivi, as well as a Gecko Moria. So a good amount of diversity for this, probably one of the more diverse tournaments that we've seen from at least an official capacity, and I think that's amazing. And also, I did also sneak in a couple of X2s, so these are decks that could have topped with better tiebreakers, but they did have a winning record for it too. So because we're going over 10 deck lists, I'm not going to go over these in the video in general, but we did have an OP05 Luffy, we did have a Bonnie, as well as Boa. So Aeneas is the person who won the Auckland event, so the other TAC event that's happened this month. They won with Boa, so still X2 record, just a really good finish for Boa and for Aeneas as well. But in general, I think there's a lot viable. A little bit surprised we didn't see any purple in the top 16, because I know some people have been talking about Kaido. I don't think King is there necessarily, but I also think like OP05 Luffy is pretty good in this format, but obviously gets better with the new star decks too. So anyways, we are going to go over the top placing list with each one of these leaders, starting off with our first place list, which is Z's version of the Rob Lucci. And this deck has changed a little bit from OP07. The newest adds are a couple of just solid cards from the Animal Kingdom Pirates. We've got the Who's Who, which is a 2K, but also says you may on play you may discard 1 card from your hand. You get to K up to one of your opponent's cost 3 or lower characters. So on a 5 cost 5K, that's pretty good. The fact that it's a 2K is fantastic. The fact that it can trigger off of life to hit something potentially, I think, is good. It's just a solid card overall. There's no real issue with it. It also has former Cypher Pole in it, so I don't know if that counts for it has to just have Cypher Pole in it, so it counts as it for some of your stuff. So pretty much like your Spandine, including Cypher Pole. So you're good for this. So you don't even like lose out on any of the synergies for it because of that too, which is really, really strong. So in general, I think this is just great for the deck. If you still like Kaku, you can run it, but this is just like a bit of a buff for it. And then obviously Jack, right? We've been talking about this card pretty much since release. It's fantastic. The fact that it's 11K means that there's a lot of decks that just strictly can't get rid of this card. It can attack as a 7-drop 8K, and I think the other big thing about this card is that you used to be like, not strictly, but you're just kind of like in a weird spot if you went first, right? Because you didn't really have like a really good play on 7 Dawn. Now you do. Jack is a fantastic card. The fact that it's an 8K is just very strong. In that sense, the fact that you also get an effect when you play it, draw 1, trash 1 is really good for Lucci right now too, since we have so many kind of bricks in our hand, and I think the deck is just in a really good spot. So I don't really have much more to say about Lucci. We kind of already know. I do think it's one of the better decks in this format, but I also don't think it's like tier 0, a step above everything else, but just really solid. And I think just really solid in the fact that right now we kind of know the decks that are good, but we still have to adjust to the fact that Red Purple Law is not around, and there's a lot of adjustments, which we'll see on the other 9 decks that we talk about too. But this is Z's build, and congratulations for their first place finish with Rob Lucci. Next up, we've got Nami. So this is Joel's version of the build, and nothing's changed for Nami in OP08 besides maybe the meta being like still a little bit more forgiving. We do have some more aggressive decks that have popped up in the last little bit, which we'll talk about when we get there. But Nami's still in a fantastic spot. I think Nami is a very strong leader right now, and especially at the beginning of the format, where I think some decks aren't 100% optimized. It means that Nami is just better because it's always optimized. It's always like the best build, right, on release. So only like sneak ads. We do have Zeph, which is getting like mildly popular. We have the Sogeking too, which it does draw 2, trash 2, but 7 Dawn is a lot of investment for that. But I do agree, like there's some 6 costs that being able to bounce back to their hand does help a lot too. So it's fine. It's a cute little ad. I don't think it changes much anything, but in general, Nami's good. You should know this, and you should be afraid of it because it is continuing to top, and I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. So this is Joel's copy of the build, and congratulations for their second place. Actually, did they get second place? Yeah, second place for this event. Next up, we've got Zoro. So this was a deck that wasn't immediately on my radar at release. I've had some people tell me about it, and this is really something that if it did well in Japan, Red Purple Law just completely overshadowed it. Like there's no reason to really play this build when I feel like Red Purple Law just kind of does everything better, right? But with that gone, we do have Reliable, our best red leader for aggression since release, and 8 sets later, we're still here with it. It's the animal build of Zoro. So the idea with this card is to take advantage of the Tony Chopper that we get from OP08. It says your turn on play when attacking, look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, and you can play up to 1 animal type character with 4k power or less rested, then place the rest of the bottom of your deck in any order. So essentially this gets to play a bunch of bodies out, which is really great. And if you're most decks in the format can't really keep up with the cards that you're playing out either. So they are 4Ks, but also the fact that Zoro can aggressively buff those up for free is really great. We make some really wide boards. We have some good targets for that, including the other Tony Chopper, which also lets you play a 3k powerless animal from your hand, which can be your another 2k, the super spot build Duck Squad. It's also the Hiking Bear, which just gives you this becomes a 4k pretty easy, and then it's just like you're helpful by putting a Dawn on here. You're giving a plus 1k to 2 things, so like your Dawn management is just really good for this deck in general. So the other cards we have, like Tony Chopper, the 3-drop from the EBO1. This card's gotten a little bit expensive because of this too. You'll notice it's a little bit high right now, but it's just a solid card. You can also use it to attack into things. So, or if you need some removal, even you can play it out. You can block with it. You can keep it active. You can attack, putting 2 Dawn underneath to give something minus 3k. And then like the Nami or the Dr. Kuriha that you played on turn 1 is able to trade into something really nicely too. So just solid cards from here. And then we have some big rush cards. We got Kid and Killer. We've got Dragon, and then we do have the rest of our event cards too. So honestly, I think the deck's in a really good spot. It wasn't something that I was aware of, but I've been playing against it a little bit lately, and I'm like, this is a real threat, and I'm not really surprised that it's been topping for events like these. So I think this is going to be pretty popular. I think it's going to be pretty viable unless we get like a really just good control-y removal deck, which Rob Lucci can still check this deck and get some removal with their 4-drop at a good time, but even then I think Zoro's in a really good spot. So this is a build here. Congratulations to Jimmy for their finish with Zoro. Next up, we've got Monkey.D.Luffy. So this is our Star Deck 13 one. Nothing's really changed. I'll be honest. It is the most popular leader that did top this event with 4 spots to it, and 2 of them made it into top or to X1s, and the rest of them into an X2 finish. But it did win both of the finals. We had the Liverpool finals as well as the North American finals in Texas. It won both of those events. I think Red Purple Law was a deck that this was afraid of, and then I do think like Zoro though can be a scary deck, especially because we have played Jambe in it in the main, which means that these Sabo blockers aren't really doing anything, which is really strong. And I think the deck in general is just in just a good spot still. We are playing in this build specifically the 10-drop Kuzan, which I'm not a big fan of, but I usually like the Finger Pistol a little bit more, but this has been strong and proven to work in a lot of ways. We are playing the Aces as well, which I still think finding room for these are not terrible for the deck, so I do appreciate that. And just the rest of the package. Obviously, no changes for this one. It's pretty understood what this deck looks like, and definitely more pilot centered than anything else. So this is the build here from Zoe, and congratulations for their finish with the Star Deck 13 Luffy. Next up, we've got Perona, which this also is just an OP07 brought in. There's no new cards from OP08 for this one, but this has been theory crafted a lot. I know there's a lot of buzz the last couple of weeks of how viable is Perona right now. It did get a top 32 finish in the Dallas Card Fest, and then another top 16 here with this Perona finish here by Dimitri. So I think that this is I always just have issues with this just because I feel like Rob Lucci does what this deck wants to do, but a little bit better. I'm also like a little bit surprised we're not finding any copies of like Jack, because I think this deck can also take advantage by how good this is, but the deck is still very solid. We are playing the full 4 copies of the Zoro here. Being able to use this, if it hits the board and stays on board, which I think is happening a little bit more often right now. I think Rob Lucci's not as around, so there's some good decks you can punish with this. You're in a good spot. The Zoro can just win the game by itself, but getting into that late game I think is a little bit tricky. Is being a 4-life leader, there's a lot of matchups that hurt you right now because of that too, but I don't know. I still feel like I really, really want to like Perona, and I'll sleeve it up, and some games will be like really easy and it feels good, but then other games I just feel like I lost on like turn 2 or 3. So I think it takes like a really strong pilot to be able to take that. I think that's what Dimitri did for this weekend, and congratulations for their finish with Perona for this one. And the next up, we've got Star Deck 14 Luffy, and obviously this has been like one of the new glow ups. It's been pretty much, it's like exploded in popularity since the finish in Liverpool 2 weekends ago in 7.5. And I think I've mentioned this a couple times. 7.5 and 8 are very similar. There's a couple of changes for it, but nothing too wild. And nothing like, there's no like 100% new deck with new cards from OP08 in this meta. But I think Luffy's in a really good spot. He does have a lot of the same package, but we've switched it more to, I think, more of a Navy centered package, mostly because we do. I think like the brand new is helpful. The fact that it puts cards into our trash is actually significant, because we need more cards into our trash for some of our abilities, since Luffy does not gain that benefit. But the fact that we become a 6k leader on the defense really easily is very strong. I think that's helpful for the deck. Also, Jack, I was kind of mentioned, this card's fantastic, and it's hard to remove, and also it's an 11 cost when it's on the board, which means that your Luffy is almost always going to be a 6k as long as you have a Don underneath your leader. So because of that, I think that helps the deck out a lot too. We're going to get more support of it in the Navy Star deck as well. We can have the Hina with it, but I think it's just a solid deck right now too. 3 Sabos I think is a little interesting. I'd run it at 4 because you want to put a bunch of cards into your trash for your Moria plays. Also, one little thing too, Rebecca lets you get a 3 to 7 from your trash to their hand, which can include Jack, which I didn't really recognize until someone did it to me earlier, because it is a 7. I'm so used to not being able to get Moria, it can still get Jack, which is really, really impressive. So the only thing I don't like about this deck is that we do have 20 cards without counter, which is quite a lot. I think that there might be some reason to get like a little bit of your non-counters out of there, or switch it up, but that's kind of like just the trade-off with black. There's just so many good cards, there's so many good removal cards that you feel so pressured to be able to play all of them, but you have like these kind of weird spots where it's hard to balance them all, I think is the way to say it. But I still think this deck is great. I think there's a lot of room to keep checking it out in the next little bit, and it's not really going to go anywhere. So congratulations to Zihao for their finish with the Star Deck 14 Luffy. And then next up we've got Marco, and this is honestly my favorite leader from OP06. I've been enjoying playing this a lot. I think there's a lot of good balance for it. There's a lot of good gameplay, and it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to play this deck, and it feels like Sakazuki, but like a little bit more balanced. The removal's not as easy, but you get to sequence up some plays. There's a lot of decisions for it, and sometimes you're just balancing on hoping that your 4-drop Marco gets you enough value to end out the game in a lot of ways. So, but I think this deck is really solid. We are missing out on some of the support that we get in Star Deck 15, but even without it, I think there's some good stuff with it. So this is Immanuel's version of the deck right now, and so some key points is that we are running the Sanji combo. We're only playing 3, but I think that's fine with the amount of cycle that you generally see with this deck and the amount of like non-counters that we play, which is currently 21. We want to be like good balance between all of them. Like this is like a good extension, but I think most of the time is that we want to be able to play the dragon or the silvers on 8. I think that's a little bit more important. Sure, we can play Sanji to get like another value from it too, because technically like this draws 1 because like you use the Marco effect, so you're not even like losing card advantage by using the Sanji. You get like a free body out, which is really, really nice. But yeah, silvers for like a control aspect is really great. I think this card is really, really strong for the deck if you're going that way, which is helpful. I really do like the dragon too. This puts like a bit of an aggressive edge to the deck, being able to like on 8 be able to attack 9k and then like use your leader ability as well, so you can trade into something really nice and get that advantage there. 5-drop ace, being able to play out the Marcos for cheap, I think is really nice, or for free, essentially. Like you get to draw one, play it, which is great. In general, like this deck really revolves around the fact that you get free draw ones from being able to play cards that you put back to the top of your deck, which is I think really helpful. So which is also why we're playing cards like Don Quixote do Flamingo, which this is great too, because like if we need to play it, one, it's a blocker, but also if we need to kind of sequence out a turn where like if we're on the odd curve, right, it really means that, oh, if we know for this Sanji, like this is draw, this is draw, this is draw, we can sequence it out so we know exactly what we're drawing off our Marco leader effect, and we can play this on 9 instead of playing it on 10 when we had to set it up with their leader effect. So other than that, I think I want to try this build. I haven't tested it out personally. I've tried some other builds with it, but this one's been looking really fun, and I think this is a really good success with Marco too. So this is Immanuel's finish, and congratulations for their top 16 with Marco. And to wrap it up on our X2s, we do have Kalgara, and this is a leader that I was really excited for to testing out, and I tested it out a lot, and I think the deck can be good. It is not for me. It is 100% not for me. I think the deck is. I don't really like the play style for it. And the biggest thing that you don't immediately see when you look at the card pool and look at these decks is that the sequencing for it is a little bit random, or it's really hard to be consistent with this deck because you have a lot of searchers, right? We have let's top 5 First Guy Island card. And then we also have like Ohm, which lets you find your holies, right? And then you have like your Wiper that helps you find your upper yards, right? You have all these different things, but they only find particular cards, right? So it's really easy to like play one of the searchers to bottom deck the thing you really needed or a thing that you need later, specifically like the Mont Blanc. This one's so hard. This one's so hard to find. You just have to draw it, right? It's not a Sky Island card. It's also not a warrior, it's just a botanist, right? And so until we get a botanist searcher, because this is the best card in the deck a lot of the times, right? Being able to play it, being able to heal and have it out with your Kalgara just feels really, really good. So I think this deck can be good. It's just it's really, really tough for me to pilot personally, and I've just had some issues with it. So I'm not really surprised that Kalgara was able to top this weekend, but you should be surprised if you see me sleep this stack up, because it is not my play style. But I do think it does have its niche here, and it does put like a lot of big bodies out. It just has a hard time finishing the game sometimes. But this is Benjamin's build, and congratulations for their finish with Kalgara. And then next up, we've got Vivi, which is quite the surprise for me. And definitely, I want to test this deck out like immediately. But this is Clark's version of the deck. It is mostly an OP07 deck. The newest ad we do have is the Silvers, though, because this is a pretty strong card for this deck, being able to get some removal. Also, it has like some defensive properties, which is really great. But also the fact that you're able to use this with your Vivi, right? So potentially, if you're at 10 Dawn, you'd be able to use your Vivi effect to give it rush, so which lets you not only like potentially remove something with the actual effect of it by giving something -3 and then KOing a 3k or less, but then also giving something -2 and then being able to attack an 8k into something that's lost 10. So like essentially like this can be like a 10k with rush that got rid of something else, if you want to think of it that way. So I think that helps Vivi a lot. This is like one of the better cards, especially since there weren't really any good 8-drops, right? Like the other like good red 8-drop that exists is Dragon, which already has rush, so you don't generally care to play that card. So I think that helps out the deck. We also have like Borsellino, being able to bottom deck a 4 and then be able to be like a rush card, I think is really good. Bo has been also just a really good ad for this deck too, in the kind of the same vein, is that it's you get to play it out, but you get to stun something and you get that pressure. So I think this deck is really interesting. We also are playing the Warlord package too, so this means like we get a lot of card draw from our Gecko Morias to be able to just recycle it. We have Jinbei being able to play out your cards. I'm surprised we're not playing Weevil, but I also don't think we can afford to have so many non-counter cards because we already have so many as it is. But just being able to, I think, play out bodies to make sure that we get to the late game, and then we can play like our Xiangs, our Silvers, our Borsellinos. Those can just get a lot of value, especially since we can give them rush and get that there. So I think this is an interesting build, and I want to test it out. But big congratulations to Clark for their finish with Vivi here. And then to wrap it up, we do have Poe with their version of Moria. And Moria's been kind of like just slowly getting a little bit less popular. You'll notice this is just an OP07 deck. This might even be an OP06 deck, right? Is there any OP07 cards in this one? I don't think there are, right? Are there any? These are all, yeah, this is OP06 deck, dang. But it's still good, right? It's still like 8-drop Moria still goes hard. We do get a lot of advantage from that. I think Sakazuki is a really good add to the deck right now too, being able to help set up some trash stuff if we need to for Moria. Not that we need it all the time, but I think that's solid for the deck. And it's just in a good spot. I don't really have much more to say. It's Moria. What do you want me to say? We'll see if he becomes any more popular. I know that Star Deck 14 Luffy right now is just kind of like the more popular black leader, just because it wasn't known to be viable for a long time, and then now that it is, and now that people are experimenting with it more, it's just the newer deck too. So I know that like between it and Rob Lucci's the deck that lets you get like better extension off your 8-drop Moria, but the Moria leader's always been the leader that's more consistent. So there's less kind of like pop off turns with the deck, but it's still in a really good spot, and I'm not surprised to see it top, but I don't think it's going to be doing anything superb for the next couple weeks either. But this is the build here from Poe, and that's going to be it for this one. Again, a long video because there's a lot of leaders to talk about, but really excited to see like several of these. I'm really happy just personally to see deck lists to look at and test, and I've already started thinking about what I want to try out next for this meta. So this is going to be it though. If you guys enjoy these videos, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe. I really do appreciate it, and that's going to be it for me. So thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.
Damn it. Damn it.